The sirens had been screaming long enough that people had stopped hearing them as alarms and started accepting them as background noise, like rain or regret. He leaned against the cracked wall of the transit station, watching a man argue with an automated ticket machine that had clearly given up on existence 5 minutes ago. "Invalid destination," the machine repeated in a cheerful tone. "There is no valid destination," the man shouted back. "Thank you for your feedback." He almost laughed, almost. The ceiling lights flickered again, slower this time, as if they were tired of pretending everything was fine. Outside, the sky bent in a way skies were not supposed to bend, like someone had taken the horizon and twisted it just to see what would happen. No one had a good explanation. Plenty of bad ones, though: experimental weapons, dimensional overlap, government incompetence. He personally favored cosmic accident caused by someone pressing the wrong button. It felt honest. He pushed himself off the wall, intending to join the slow-moving crowd toward the last functioning transport gate when he noticed her. She wasn't part of the movement. Everyone else flowed around her like water, avoiding a stone, careful not to touch, careful not to look too long. She sat on the cold floor, back against a support column, wrapped in a thin, torn sheet that did absolutely nothing against the creeping chill. At first glance, she looked human, pale, exhausted, quietly existing. But then she moved, and her hair slipped aside, revealing ears that curved longer than they should, elegant and unmistakably wrong. Ah, he thought, that explains the social distancing. He hesitated. Not out of fear, exactly, but out of that familiar human instinct to avoid complications. And she looked like the kind of complication that came with footnotes, warnings, and possibly a manual he did not have. "Not your problem," someone muttered as they passed him, not even bothering to lower their voice. He nodded slightly, as if agreeing with a thought he hadn't fully committed to. Then he looked at her again. She wasn't begging. That was the strange part. No outstretched hand, no desperate eyes scanning for help. Just a quiet stillness, like she had already done the math and didn't like the result. "Well," he sighed under his breath, "I've always been bad at math." He stepped toward her before he could change his mind. Up close, she looked even more human, which somehow made the differences sharper. Her ears twitched slightly, reacting to something he couldn't hear, and her eyes, clear, focused, shifted to him with a calm that felt out of place. "You're going the wrong way," he said, gesturing vaguely toward the gates. "I am not going," she replied. Her voice was soft, precise, like each word had been carefully selected from a list he couldn't see. "Yeah," he scratched the back of his neck. "I picked up on that part." Another flicker of light. This time, the floor tilted for just a second, enough for a few people to stumble and swear loudly at physics itself. He steadied himself against the column. "Look," he said, lowering his voice, "things are getting worse out there. Whatever's happening, it's not waiting for us to figure it out." "I am aware," she said. "Good," he nodded. "That makes one of us." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sirens wailed. The machine behind him politely rejected another human attempt at logic. Then she studied him, her gaze lingering longer than comfort allowed. "You are choosing to remain," she said. "Temporarily," he corrected quickly. "Let's not make this a personality trait." Her lips curved slightly, not quite a smile but close enough to count. "It is a poor decision," she added. "Oh, absolutely," he agreed. "I make those all the time. Keeps life interesting." Another tremor passed through the station, stronger now. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere in the distance, something made a sound that definitely did not belong on Earth or anywhere that followed basic rules. He glanced toward the exit, then back at her. "Can you walk?" he asked. "Yes." "Great," he said, offering a hand. "Because I've decided not to abandon you, and I'd really like that decision to not immediately kill me." She looked at his hand as if it were a complex equation. Then, slowly, she took it. Her grip was warm, steady. And for just a second, the noise of the station, the sirens, the shouting, the breaking world outside, faded into something quieter. "You do not understand what you are doing," she said. He gave a small, crooked smile. "Yeah," he replied, pulling her gently to her feet, "but I've got a feeling I'm about to find out." They made it out of the station just as the doors sealed behind them with a final, almost offended hiss, like the building itself had decided it was done helping. Outside, the air felt thinner, not in the sense that there was less of it, but as if reality had diluted it slightly and hoped no one would notice. He noticed. Okay, he muttered, looking up at a sky that now had at least 3 different shades of wrong. I would like to officially complain. To whom? She asked, walking beside him with unsettling ease. Whoever is in charge of this. He waved vaguely at everything. I'd like a refund. There is no central authority, she said. Of course there is, that would be too convenient. They moved down the street, or what used to be a street. The pavement shifted subtly under their feet, like it couldn't quite remember how to stay flat. A car hovered a few centimeters above the ground, spinning slowly in place as if reconsidering its life choices. He pointed at it. That's new. It is failing to remain anchored, she replied. Same, he said, emotionally and now apparently physically. She glanced at him, and for a moment he thought she might laugh. It was a brief, flickering expression, like a glitch in her otherwise controlled demeanor. You use humor to stabilize yourself, she observed. I use humor to avoid screaming, he corrected. It's a very advanced human coping mechanism. I see. You don't, he said, but I appreciate the effort. A low hum passed through the air, deep and resonant, vibrating in his chest more than in his ears. The buildings ahead bent slightly, their edges softening as if reality had decided sharp corners were optional. She slowed. He noticed that too. You hear that? He asked. I feel it, she said quietly. That's worse. Her long ears tilted, catching something beyond his perception. For the first time since he'd met her, there was tension in her posture, subtle but undeniable. It is accelerating, she murmured. What is? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stepped forward, reaching out toward the air itself. He watched, unsure whether to be impressed or deeply concerned. The space in front of her shimmered, like heat rising from asphalt, except it was colder. Much colder. The distortion tightened, folding inward, and for a brief second he saw something beyond it. Shapes, structures, something vast and unfinished, like a sketch of a universe waiting to be inked. Then it snapped back. He blinked. Okay, he said slowly. I'm adding that to the list of things I don't understand. She lowered her hand. It is not supposed to interact with you, she said. Rude, he replied. I'm very interactive. Her gaze shifted to him, sharper now. You are not reacting as expected. Well, I'm sorry for not panicking correctly during the collapse of reality, he said. I'll try harder next time. That is not what I mean. He sighed. Yeah, I figured. They continued walking, though direction had become more of a suggestion than a rule. The city around them twisted in subtle, unsettling ways. A street sign displayed 3 different names depending on the angle. Shadows moved a fraction of a second too late, like they were buffering. You keep looking at things before they happen, he said suddenly. She didn't deny it. I am observing potential states, she replied. Potential states, he repeated. Right, totally normal thing to say. It is normal where I am from. Yeah, well, where I'm from, we call that deeply concerning. That almost smile again. You are adapting quickly, she said. I don't have a choice, he shrugged. It's either adapt or whatever that is. He pointed at a building that had folded into itself like paper and was now gently unfolding again, as if embarrassed. She stopped walking. This time, he stopped too. You should not have stayed, she said, her voice quieter than before. Bit late for that, he replied. The system is responding to me, she continued, as if he hadn't spoken. It is trying to reconcile incompatible structures. He stared at her. You're saying this is happening because of you. Her silence was answer enough. He let out a long breath, rubbing his face. Okay, he said finally. Good news is I was already having a bad day. This is not humor, she said. It is for me. Another hum, stronger now. The air bent again, closer this time, like it was leaning in to listen. He looked at her, really looked this time. Who are you? He asked. She met his gaze, and for the first time there was something uncertain in her expression. I am, she began, then stopped. For a moment, even the world seemed to pause. I am not certain how to answer that in a way you would survive understanding. He blinked. That is not reassuring. I know. The ground shifted beneath them, and somewhere far above, the sky cracked, not breaking but rewriting. And somehow he realized this was only the beginning. The sky didn't break. It negotiated. He stood beside her at what used to be an intersection, watching layers of reality slide past each other like pages that couldn't agree on the same story. Buildings flickered between versions, intact, ruined, never built, and the air carried that deep, resonant hum, now steady, almost patient. Tell me there's a simple explanation, he said. There is not, she replied. Of course there is. She stepped forward and the world leaned with her. He could see it now, subtle but undeniable. The distortions weren't random. They curved around her, like iron filings around a magnet, or like reality itself was trying to remember her shape. I was sent to observe, she said, to measure a fixed system. Fixed, he repeated, glancing at a floating traffic light. Bold choice of words. It was fixed, she corrected, before I arrived. He exhaled slowly, and now. I am incompatible. He let that sit for a moment, then he nodded. Yeah, that tracks. She looked at him, something softer in her expression. You are not reacting with fear. Oh, I'm terrified, he said. I'm just choosing to be funny about it. It's either that or lie down and let the universe win, and I have plans later. You will not survive those plans if this continues. Wow, he said, you really know how to motivate a person. The hum deepened. The air in front of her bent again, but this time it didn't snap back. It opened, slowly, carefully, revealing that same unfinished vastness he had glimpsed before. Structures that didn't obey angles, light that didn't come from anywhere, possibilities stacked on top of each other like options in a menu no human was meant to see. He swallowed. That looks unhealthy. It is my origin, she said. And it's leaking. I am leaking, she corrected. He let out a quiet laugh, shaking his head. Of all the ways the world could end, I didn't expect alien existential overflow. She didn't smile this time. I can stop it, she said. I can separate from this system, withdraw. And that fixes everything. Yes, he studied her. What happens to you? A pause. I will no longer exist in a form you recognize. He nodded slowly. Right, of course, there's always a catch. The ground steadied for a moment, as if giving him time to think. Or maybe she was. You knew this would happen? He asked. I calculated the probability, she said. I did not expect, she hesitated. Me, he offered. Yes. He smiled faintly. Yeah, I get that a lot. She stepped closer, and the distortions followed, softer now, almost hesitant. You altered the variables, she said. I stayed, he replied. That's not exactly rewriting the universe. For you it is not, she said. For me, it is significant. He looked at the shifting sky, then back at her. So what are the options? I leave and your world stabilizes, she said. Or I remain and it becomes something else. Something else, he echoed. That could be better. It could also not be. He considered that, then nodded. Fair. A building nearby flickered between existence and absence, like it was trying to decide if it wanted to be part of this conversation. He took a breath. You asked me earlier why I wasn't afraid, he said. Truth is, I was of all of it. The sky breaking, the ground moving you. I understand. But then I realized something, he continued. Everything was already fragile. We just pretended it was. She listened, completely still. You didn't break the world, he said. You just made it honest. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the hum shifted, softer, almost curious. You would accept change, she said. He shrugged. I accepted you, did I? That almost smile returned, stronger this time. Yes, she said. You did. The space around her brightened, the distortions no longer violent, but fluid, like something learning instead of failing. I can adjust the transition, she said. Reduce instability, guide the adaptation. So, less collapsing buildings, he asked, significantly fewer. I'm on board with that. She reached out, not to the air this time, but to him. He took her hand without hesitation. You may experience discomfort, she said. Story of my life. Light folded around them, not blinding, but expansive. He felt it, not pain, not exactly, but a stretching, like his thoughts were being given more room than they were used to. The city shifted, not breaking, changing. Edges softened, structures reformed, the sky settling into something new, not wrong, just different. When it was over, the hum faded into silence. He blinked. The street was still there. The buildings stood, though subtly altered, their shapes less rigid. The air felt deeper. He looked at her. She looked the same. Mostly. Human at a glance. Long ears still curving gently, but now they shimmered faintly, like they were part of something larger. Did it work? He asked. Yes, she said. He glanced around. We're not dead, that's a good sign. It is considered a positive outcome, she agreed. He laughed, a real one this time. I'll take it. People began to emerge from hiding, confused but unharmed. The world hadn't ended, it had shifted. He looked at her again. So what now? She tilted her head, that familiar gesture. Now, she said, we observe what comes next. He smiled. Yeah, he said, hands in his pockets as he looked at the changed sky. This time I'm staying on purpose. The first thing he noticed was that the world had stopped pretending to be simple. It didn't scream or collapse anymore. It just behaved differently, like it had learned a new language overnight and expected everyone to keep up. Streets no longer ran perfectly straight. They curved subtly, as if following ideas instead of blueprints. Shadows didn't always agree with their owners, occasionally stretching a little too far, like they were curious about life beyond their assigned roles. He stood at the edge of a crosswalk that now displayed 3 possible walk signals at once. Which one is correct? He asked. Define correct, she replied. He nodded. Right, I walked into that one. People moved cautiously at first, then with growing confidence. No one talked about what had happened in clear terms, because there weren't any. News reports tried. He'd watched one where a scientist used the phrase localized ontological flexibility before visibly giving up and recommending a nap. So we just live like this now? He said, watching a man carefully step around a floating bench. Yes, she answered. Adaptation is already occurring. Of course it is, he muttered. Humans, give us 5 minutes and a confusing situation, and we'll start building rules for it. She looked at him. You are calmer. He shrugged. I think I ran out of panic. Budget cuts. That earned a small, genuine smile. They walked together through the altered city, no longer chased by collapsing reality, but followed by its quieter evolution. He noticed things he wouldn't have before, the way surfaces shimmered slightly when no one looked directly at them, the way distant sounds sometimes arrived before their source. It should have been unsettling. It was. Does it ever go back? He asked after a while. No, she said. It moves forward. He considered that. Good, he replied. Backward was overrated anyway. They reached the old station, or what used to be the old station. The structure remained, but its edges had softened. Its rigid geometry replaced with something more fluid. The ticket machine still stood inside. It now displayed, destination undecided. He laughed. Finally, a system that understands me. She watched him, her expression thoughtful. You have changed, she said. Yeah, he admitted. I think I stopped waiting for things to make sense before I act. That is inefficient. It is very freeing, he corrected. A pause settled between them, not uncomfortable, just aware. You could leave, he said suddenly. Now that everything's stable, go back to wherever you came from. I could, she said. He nodded, hands in his pockets. Would that fix anything else? No. Then I guess the universe can handle you staying. Her ears shifted slightly, catching something unseen. You are assuming I would choose to remain. He glanced at her. Wouldn't you? For a moment, she didn't answer. Then she stepped closer, looking at the city, at the people adapting, at the world no longer breaking but becoming. This system is no longer incompatible, she said. It is evolving. Sounds like a good reason to stick around. She looked at him then, fully, without distance. And you, she asked, why do you remain? He smiled, a little tired but certain. Because I started something I don't want to walk away from, he said, and because, apparently, I make bad decisions. That is consistent, she said. Thank you. They stood there as the world moved, not perfectly, not predictably, but forward. The fear that had once filled every moment had thinned, replaced by something quieter. Possibility. He took a breath, deeper than before, like the air itself allowed it. So, he said, glancing at her, what do we call this version of reality? She considered the question carefully. Then, with that same almost smile that had begun everything, she answered, we do not name it yet. He nodded. Yeah, let's not rush it. The light shifted, the city breathed, and for the first time, the future didn't feel like something waiting to happen. It felt like something they were already part of.